Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
The author of this statement is unknown, but I love these words. Listen carefully. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. May the rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Amen. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America on a Monday, October 16th. We need a Pledge of Allegiance person. Call in. Good morning. And a good morning to you, Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell, and thanks for tuning in on another week, another fun-filled week with interesting guests right here on Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. Great big fall tire sale going on right now. And, of course, some of our great advertisers, including Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Call and get on the route service at 734-6969. Right now, it's time for our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, sir.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I hope you had a great weekend.
I did. I was harvesting the garden and putting things to bed and winterized trailers and the beautiful weather.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to invite you over to do the same for me. Hey, I'll talk to you a little bit.
I broke my tool, so I can't come out.
Okay. Hey, I'll call you, or you call in a little bit, okay?
Will do.
All right, thank you. It is time for the weather, and the weather brought to you by K&R Rental, 256 South, 300 west of Heyburn. Oh, the number to remember, 678-3122. I mean, you should call them because they've got everything over there, all your tools and equipment, everything. And you know what? If you're not sure what you need, they can help. They've got all the experience. They've been in business since 1979. Roger and the crew at K&R Rental in Heyburn, 678-3122. Now, here's the weather. And now,
it's warming up for this week, which we're all thankful for, at least I am. And here is your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch. Looking at sunny skies for today, a little bit on the breezy side, not too bad. High of 64 is what we're looking at. Tonight, clear skies, low of 34. Tomorrow, sunny skies, warming up to 68 with an overnight low of 36. And for Wednesday and Thursday, hold on to this one, sunny skies and 70. That's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Ooh, wow, I love that kind of a forecast. Good morning, K&R Rental, 256 South, 300 west of Heyburn. And like I've been telling you, Roger and the whole crew, they've got everything you need over there. And if you've got a job equipment site, then they'll deliver right there and then pick up the power tools and heavy equipment when you're all finished. Give them a call. 678-3122, K&R Rental in Heyburn. Really good people. Good morning, everybody, and I hope you had a great weekend. And we're going to be talking about some of the events that happened this weekend. But before I get into one thing in particular that I want to give a salute to, I want to remind everybody about Daryl's Cleaners at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Now, still a lot of guys and gals are getting ready to go hunting, and you've thrown everything in the back of the camper or the trailer, and you had that sleeping bag all bundled up since last year. Have you unfurled that thing and opened it up and said, whoa, we had to get that cleaned? Well, Daryl's Cleaners can clean all your sleeping bags. And by the way, too, he can waterproof tents and clothing. Keep you dry, okay? Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. You stop in and see them today. With all the hubbub and the mess that Colin Kaepernick has caused, and I don't need to be preached to by anybody in the paper that it's okay to take a knee during our national anthem or sit during the anthem. I don't need that from anybody, including Jim Jones, former Attorney General. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But Friday night at the Kimberly versus Buell football game, I got to tell you that Kimberly did an outstanding job of an opening ceremony, and it was just about game time, and Kimberly went back, of course, after their warm-ups into the locker room, and then all of a sudden, bang, the band took the field, and every player on that Kimberly High School football team came charging out of the locker room carrying a 3-foot by 5-foot flag, waving it proudly as American high school students. Wow. And then standing for the national anthem, it was absolutely wonderful. I just want to give kudos to Kimberly High School and their football team for really instilling a lot of patriotism on Friday night. It brought tears to my eyes. Of course, my grandson plays for Kimberly. Yes, I was there to watch that game for that particular reason, but boy, was I proud of those kids. They looked really, really good. Ramsey Heating and Electric. My goodness sakes, yes, let's not forget our friends. All your heating and cooling needs and your electrical needs, they've got it all for you right there at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. The number to call, 678-0459. They're open 7:30 to 5 Monday through Friday. Oh, my, yes, they've got it all for you, including all your furnace filters to make sure that your furnace is going to work correctly. It's going to drop like a rock in a water bucket here pretty quick temperature-wise. I'm having a little trouble this morning. I'm not wide awake. And I want you to be sure and be ready with your furnace that's going to operate efficiently, thanks to Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Why don't you give me a call? We're going to be talking about the anthem. We're going to talk about the NFL just a little. I'm sick of the story. I want you to know that I am sick and tired of presenting this on my program, but I think we've got some points of interest that need to be made here this morning. Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. Hello, Denny's. We are going to be there on Thursday for Lunch Bunch. Don't miss it. Invite your friends. Invite your neighbors. Come on down. We usually, like I said, have between 50, 60, 70 people. And we've got a lot of door prizes and everything. Come on down. And we'd relish the fact of having you there at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner. That's on this coming Thursday, 611 North Overland in Burley. You can stop in anytime, all the time. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner at Denny's Restaurant. You stop in and see them today. Oh, now Colin Kaepernick is going to try to sue the National Football League. He's going to try to sue the National Football League owners for, get this, collusion. And his lawsuit, and there's a story in the paper about this, that Kaepernick files grievance against NFL alleging collusion. You know what? There is collusion. There is. And I'm sure the owners have talked. They don't want this bum, and that's what I think he is, on their football team. And I don't think Colin Kaepernick has got a snowball's chance in the oven of getting back into the NFL. I really don't, and I hope not. Now, there's another story out before somebody calls me and says, oh boy, what about your Green Bay Packers? Yes, There was a report that some people have said after what happened yesterday to probably the best quarterback in the NFL for quite some time, Aaron Rodgers of the Packers, broke his collarbone, may be out for the rest of the season, and probably will be. And there was a call by some to have Colin Kaepernick be hired by the Green Bay Packers. And if they hire him, I'll guarantee you that's it. I will burn all the memorabilia, everything. I'm going to get rid of it. I don't want that punk. And that's what I think Colin Kaepernick is, a spoiled, absolutely misinformed punk. And on any pro football team. Now, there are others that are putting stories in the paper about, oh, well, taking a knee doesn't respect the military. Jim Jones, former Attorney General, had, evidently the Times News loves what he writes. I don't. It was kind of an I did this, me attitude in his editorial. And he said the headline, taking a knee doesn't disrespect the military. No, it disrespects all of us. It disrespects all of us. And the cancer that grows from this one particular person, Colin Kaepernick, taking a knee, spreads to other players, spreads to other venues, and spreads to our youth, even as far down as third graders in elementary school. It is a cancer that is absolutely shredding the fabric of respect for our flag, our Constitution, our military, our police, our country. And I was really disheartened by a man that has served this country and in the military, and then also came back and was a former Attorney General and former Chief Justice of the State Supreme Court, Jim Jones. I did not care for, nor do I respect his article in the paper yesterday. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. I'd like to hear from you. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. If you've got some aches and pains and some sprains and strain and recovering from surgery, this is the place to go. This absolutely is the place to go with the best of physical therapy, the best of all the people and their knowledge and the hydrotherapy pool and all the exercises. They can help you get back to being you. Call them today, 678-1191. 678-1191, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. You get a hold of them today. Caller, I'll be right with you. Stand by, because I also want to remind everybody about Pomerell Place. Stand by. A quick note, Pomerell Place is hosting a VA benefit seminar on October 25th at 5:30 p.m. Public is welcome, and Georgia Greenwell, local Minnecasia veteran service representative, will be speaking on how to apply for VA benefits. That's going to be on the 25th. So RSVP if you can make it to a place for senior living, Pomerell Place at 1301 Bennett Street in Burley. The number to call, 677-8212. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. How well do you know or heard of Jim Jones?
Oh, I know Jim. I know the family, and he very well. I would say not to the point of sitting down having coffee and donuts, but I know him, yes. Why?
I don't have any respect for this man because we have go way, way, way back. He was very, very controversial about everything, and I just never have cared for him. But I've never met him personally and don't care to.
Well, let me just jump in and say he certainly has a right to his opinion, and I absolutely will respect him for that. But the article that was written, it was, I have the credentials to give an opinion on this issue. I voluntarily entered. It was I, me. And then he said, I would never fail to stand with my hand over my heart when the national anthem is played, but I certainly would not condemn a person who chose that form of protest to bring attention to perceived failings of government. The chaos that has followed from Colin Kaepernick excuse me, has infiltrated our schools. It's infiltrated all aspects of our life. And we are living in a country that is in complete disarray and falling apart at the seams as it is. We don't need more support of an action that's been a cancer.
Well, and the other thing is that this First Amendment does not apply to him. Nobody has denied Kaepernick or Kaepernick, or whatever you want to call him, the right to say what he wants. He can say what he wants, but doggone it, he needs to stand there and put his hand over his heart, because that is the way we do it in this country.
Well, the frivolous attitude, and Wheels, we're getting a little feedback on my line, please. The frivolous attitude of saying that the owners have acted in collusion not to hire him. Let me tell you something, Keith. You owned a car dealership, and you could hire and you could fire anybody you wanted to because it was a private business concern that you were the owner. The same is true with a lot more megabucks with NFL owners. They can hire and fire whomever they choose, and I'm sick and tired of this collusion, and everybody got together to make sure I'm blackballed from playing in the NFL. Listen, private business can do whatever they dadgum want to as far as hiring and firing.
Well, that comes back to the right-to-work law that we have in Idaho. A lot of people complain about it, but I'm a champion of it because under the other circumstances, a guy can fight back. Why did you fire him or anything like that? With the right-to-work law, you can fire any employee you have at any time for any reason, and you're within your rights.
I'm going to go back to what I said at the opening this morning. I mean, I stood watching the Kimberly High School football team Friday night open the door of the locker room and run out onto the field, and every single player had a great big 3-foot by 5-foot flag on a long pole, and they waved every flag. Oh, it was beautiful. These are the symbols of Americanism. Those are the youngsters that are going to be taken over in the next generation to run this country. And we've got to have respect for our country. We've got to have respect for our flag. And quite frankly, we've got to have respect for ourselves.
And who do you think was responsible for that? Their parents. Their parents taught them the right thing at the right time to do the right thing always.
And you know what? The coaching staff and everybody, and believe me, there are other schools that do the same thing, and I'm not just highlighting one over the others, but I was at this particular game, and when that door opened and all these football players came out waving that American flag and going to center field, woo, it really made me feel proud. I think it would have you too.
It makes me feel proud to be part of Idaho.
There you go, Keith. God bless you, man. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You've got to have some morality. You've got to have some respect. You've got to have a sense of decency and what's right and wrong. And maybe you don't agree with me, but I think we're losing it in this country. And when I saw those kids from Kimberly run out on the field, each waving a flag and standing in the middle, and then the national anthem, man, it made you feel 10 foot tall and bulletproof. America, our flag, and our youth. And the other side of that coin is the evilness of Colin Kaepernick. Remember, his first impulse to take a knee was to protest the police and call them pigs, wearing socks, showing them as pigs, and saying oppression, and no sense whatsoever. This thing has escalated now to where it's encompassed other topics, which I think are wrong. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I know a business that does a job that you don't want to do. You don't want to be a part of. You don't want to get your hands dirty, so to speak. And that's Dino's Septic Service in Rupert. My goodness, these people are good. All you need to do is give them a call, and they are there. Fast, fair, friendly, great service. I can attest to that. Septic tanks pumped and sewer and sink drain lines cleaned, and septic inspections, liquid waste removal, and all of this with their great big truck that on the side of the doors it says, "Smells Cargo on the way." I love it. These people are good. Dino's Septic Service in Rupert, 436-6526, and in Burley, 678-1636. All the Magic Valley served by Dino's Septic Service. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. By the way, too, I want to also quickly remind you before I take the next call, Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox all teamed up with their home comfort systems, and you might get up to a $1,600 rebate on a new Lennox home comfort system. Call Ramsey Heating and Electric today and find out more, 678-0459. Oh, by the way, and Hillary Clinton over in the United Kingdom said that it's okay to kneel. You know, the left seems like they don't have any responsibility. The left seems like they don't have the gut-wrenching respect for our flag and our country. And when she comes out and says something like this, it's all the more reason I'm so glad, and thank the good Lord above, she did not get the presidency of the United States. Oh, there's another woman in the news this morning that just thinks she's the greatest thing in the world, and she'll pick up the mirror on occasion and kiss herself. Nancy Pelosi. She just is absolutely full of self-appreciation. She said, "I am a great legislator, and I should be reelected." Well, listen, princess, pick up the mirror and kiss yourself again. Nancy Pelosi, I am a great legislator. Nancy, you are a has-been. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Please give me a call. I'm going to give away right now a dozen cookies. I feel generous, and I love their cookies. You will, too, at Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 East Street in Rupert. And they've got freezer jam over there, too. Blackberry, strawberry, Marionberry, raspberry, homemade bread. Oh, it's delicious. Great restaurant, super good bakery at Sophie's Chatterbox on the square in Rupert. Here's the question of the day. First person to call. First time winners only, please. This is an easy one. Should be an easy one. Who was the actor that played Georgie Russell on the Disney TV series Davy Crockett? Who was the actor that played Georgie Russell on the Disney series of Davy Crockett back in the 60s, early 60s? Who was that actor? And he was very, very famous for doing something else in entertainment also. Who was the actor that played Georgie Russell, Davy Crockett's sidekick on that Disney TV series? Give me a call quickly at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. Want to hear what your answer is? Quickly get on the phone. Give me a jingle. Who was the actor? And I'll give you a little clue. I'll give you a clue. He was a very famous dancer. Seriously, he was. Who was the actor that played Georgie Russell on the Disney TV series Davy Crockett? 436-2244. Somebody out there's got to want some cookies this morning. Give me a jingle. And maybe it's not as easy a question as I thought it was. So-called comedian George Lopez was speaking at a charity event this past weekend. And by the way, quickly call so I can go on and announce the winner to those cookies. Come on, somebody. And he really went after President Trump. And I understand from some of the things I've read this morning that are coming across from my suppliers of information back in New York and Washington, it was really tasteless as to what George Lopez was saying and doing about our president. We may have a winner. Hold on a second. I'll see if I can get the name. Good morning, caller. What is your answer?
Buddy Epstein.
Oh, you're so close, but you said the name wrong. Do you want to try it again?
No, because I can't think of another one.
All right, I tell you what, I just feel bad. Have you ever won the cookies before?
Never won the cookies.
All right, what's your name?
Paul Peterson.
All right, now listen, Paul, I'm going to help you along to get the right answer. Buddy Ebb is the first part, but you said Stein, and no, that's not right. What would happen if you put an S, an E, and an N after the EB? What would you have?
Epson.
Oh, Paul, you figured that out all by yourself.
Yeah, terrible, huh?
The world's greatest cartoonist is going to win a dozen cookies. Paul Peterson, God bless you, man. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Buddy Epson, not Epstein. I don't think there ever was a Buddy Epstein. There was a singer and a dancer and also an actor. Good actor, too. And he went on with other TV series later on and everything, but he was also a very much acclaimed dancer way back in those days. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Anyway, George Lopez was speaking at this charity event, and he was just railing in a filthy mode about Donald Trump. And pretty soon the crowd had enough, and they literally booed him off the stage. George Lopez, yeah, the guy on TV. And they booed him off the stage, so he thought he better come back and save some face. And he gave what he thought was an apology. And then at the very end of his apology, he said, "You can have your white president." Ooh. Now, maybe Mr. Lopez might find it well to pay admission into a charm school because he didn't know how to end that. An apology, no, it wasn't. And then to end it by saying, "You can have your white president." There are a lot of people that are not ever going to be fans of George Lopez again. Stupidity ranks supreme in George's mind when he said something as stupid and frivolous as that. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Monday morning. I can tell when it's Monday. Come on, get out of bed, give me a call. I want to hear from you. Barry Equipment and Rental, and they have, of course, 3 locations to serve you: South Lincoln in Jerome, Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley with my old buddy Juan. Boy, I bet he was happy. The Burley Bobcats won the other night. And equipment rentals, retail equipment sales, everything over there, and a lot of Bobcat excavators, new and used, for sale or rent, all shapes and sizes. And if you don't know how to run one, they've got a sandbox out behind the building. They can teach you how to run it. Oh, yeah. Barry Equipment and Rental. All the equipment to get the job done right. Jerome, Twin Falls, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Well, it's your turn. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Bo Bergdahl. Oh, man. This is a sad, sad story about a young man that just absolutely was stupid and, quite frankly, traitor to his country. Bo Bergdahl. He's going to plead guilty to desertion, but then he turns some things around in the press with statements that he's going to blame President Trump. And to be honest with you, he knew what he was doing when he deserted. He knew that he was going to be putting his fellow soldiers in harm's way, which he did. And that proved to be true after his exile to the enemy. And I honestly think that for his punishment, he should be exiled to an island with nothing more than bread and water for the rest of his life. The 5 vermin, traitors to their humanity, that were let loose for him, are back in their terrible killing society and plotting more ways on how to kill and maim and hurt people. Bo Bergdahl was absolutely a traitor and a deserter, and deserves the toughest of punishments. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Caller, speak to me. Wheels, you got to get the caller on the air quickly. Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, caller. Is he there, Wheels? What's the matter?
Yes, sir. They were there, but obviously they just didn't realize that they were on the phone. I tried saying something, but hopefully they'll call back in.
I hope so. Thank you. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. What are your thoughts about Bo Bergdahl? This is a story that's been in the news for a long time, and I have no compassion whatsoever for someone that it would endanger his troops. I was watching and listening this morning to a couple of the servicemen that had served in that area with him, and they are spiteful, and they should be. They are mad, and they should be, and they all said that he deserves the toughest of punishment. Call, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning again. Could I go back to George Lopez for just a moment?
Real fast.
And that is where a perfect example of how people get so intelligent all of a sudden when they get wealthy. And that's a good example of George Lopez.
Oh, I think that there's a lot of merit to what you said there. It's kind of like Hollywood actors, many of which never graduated from high school, many of which that only graduated from high school, many of which never could have made it in the world of education, higher education, going to a college or university. But for some reason, when they attain star status of reading a script, learning a script, and having a director tell them where to stand and how to walk and what to do, all of a sudden their IQ goes up 100 points. I don't understand why.
It sure does. And with Bergdahl, he was a traitor, and I feel like he should have been executed, because this is going to happen again and again with people. They don't have the respect of the military. They just know that if they do something wrong, they're just going to get a little slap on the hand. And I think they'd be made an example of.
Isn't it true, though, that
saying that he don't think he's going to get a fair trial?
No, come on. You know, the only reason he's not going to get a fair trial, or there's sentences and statements like that, is because that's part of the defense to weaken everything for him. But I have no use for the young man because of what he did, and also who else he endangered. So, Keith, again, thank you for your call. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet. Have a good day.
All right, sir. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. This bashing of the president, Saturday Night Live, I never did care for that show. Watched it and forced myself years ago to try to watch it, tried to appreciate, if you will, the so-called humor of the show. I couldn't find any. Very, very little, going way back, years back. And it was just kind of, it was edgy. And I didn't think the humor was really there to get any belly laughs or chortles or anything else. And now, it's turned into a hate Trump, hate everything about his administration, hate the right, hate conservatives, and I just don't know what's going on there. And then with like George Lopez and others, this continual spewing of hatred and not accepting the fact that Hillary Clinton was a very poor candidate and not the brightest bulb in the fixture, but they'll never agree with that. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. Didn't 2 servicemen die out searching for him?
You know, I'm not going to get into the specifics as was stated this morning by some of the military. There were, and I'm going to phrase this very carefully, there were extenuating circumstances of men being put on patrols that they wouldn't have had to be on had it not been for his desertion. Some were injured, and yes, there were some deaths attributed. And I think the whole thing is going to show, after everything's said and done, that Bo Bergdahl caused a lot of stress, he caused a lot of injuries, and yes, even deaths from soldiers looking and trying to find him and bring him back to the fold.
Well, in my opinion, he needs to be charged with murder.
You and I are on the same page. I think that the military, of course, in the old days, underline the word old, he would have been lined up in front of a firing squad for what he did. And now I think that maybe they're just going to be looking at somewhat of a prison sentence of maybe, I don't know how many years they'll finally come up with. But I honestly think that he should be exiled to an island and never to see the bright lights of any city again.
Thank you for receiving my call.
No, you're welcome, and thank you. God bless you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Nice lady right there. What are your thoughts? What kind of a punishment should he get, Bo Bergdahl? I had a call, it's been maybe 3-4 months ago, and this particular person really chewed me out because I was anti-Bo Bergdahl. Well, he's a fellow Idahoan. We should stand up for him. What? I never will forget, I said, wait a minute. You're telling me that because he is a fellow Idahoan, we should stand up for this young man's traitorous attitude against our flag and our country and his fellow soldiers? Well, we got to support him. Why? He is a criminal in what I think the worst degree. Our soldiers that go overseas, it's a team of buddies. I got your back. And Bergdahl did nothing but just surrender the fact that he was going to protect his buddy's back. As a matter of fact, he created a lot of problems by what he did. And Obama releasing 5 absolutely worthless terrorists so they could go back into their fold, under their tent, and plan and plot more murders and bombings, etc. We gave up those 5 vermin for a traitor. What are your thoughts? What should be the punishment for Bo Bergdahl? Calls are welcome, 436-2244. Caller, I'm going to ask your patience, if you would. I've got to get a forecast in here, a weather forecast, and then I will have you on the air. Please stand by. Don't forget Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, right across from the Minidoka Memorial Hospital emergency room, and, of course, a hearing wellness program. You better go in and find out why you can't hear so good anymore. You better go in and have it checked, and she has got answers, and she can give you help. That's first Dr. Christine Pickup at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Make an appointment today at 312-0957. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
It's warming up for this week, which we're all thankful for, at least I am. And here is your weather forecast for us up at the ranch. Looking at sunny skies for today, a little bit on the breezy side, not too bad. High of 64 is what we're looking at tonight. Clear skies, low of 34. Tomorrow, sunny skies, warming up to 68 with an overnight low of 36. And for Wednesday and Thursday, hold on to this one, sunny skies and 70. That's your weather for Zep at the Ranch.
Oh, boy, that sounds good. Thank you, Gina. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, the only locally owned and independent hearing health care practice in southern Idaho. Call for an appointment today, 312-0957. Caller, I am sorry. Thank you. Go ahead.
Good morning, by the way.
Yes, sir.
I agree with Keith and the other lady that called. I think Bert Bucknall should be shot.
What do you feel about his actions of putting others in harm's way, and also what Obama did in releasing 5 known absolutely dangerous terrorists back into the fold to save a traitor?
I think that both of them, both Bergdahl and Obama, are both traitors, and both should be shot. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and I appreciate your call. Very, very straightforward approach right there. I'm not going to say I disagree at all. I just think that, man, times have changed not for the better in this country. And you know, it's funny, but the Bergdahl being a traitor and deserting, and the NFL players taking a knee, showing total disrespect for our police, our military, our flag, our country. It's all coming together. It's like a big mushroom cloud of disrespect against America. And very unfortunately, when you hear about these little kids back in certain areas of the Midwest, like in Illinois and Missouri and other places, taking a knee at their little pee-wee football games, and then you hear other teams like the United States soccer member teams, soccer players taking a knee during our anthem, it's everything. It's permeating into the rest of our society. And it's got to stop. It's got to stop. I can't even imagine when I was in high school and college, and what would have happened to me, not only from the coaching staff, if I'd taken a knee, or what would happen if I would have went home on a vacation and had to be confronted by my German, very patriotic father. Whoa. I can't even imagine, nor do I want to even think about it. Yours truly probably would have never been able physically to go back to that college again after my dad got done working me over. And rightfully so. Rightfully so. He, his brother, all my uncles, everybody served in the military during World War II. Some of which didn't come home. Carry that further, some of my buddies from high school and college, and one of my very best friends, never came home from Vietnam. And to think that some football player, that the only aggressive action he's ever seen has been a linebacker trying to chase him down, is going to take a knee and disrespect this country and disrespect our flag? No. Bergdahl, a traitor to this country, a traitor to his unit, a traitor to the values of America? No. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587, pardon me. I want to remind you on Thursdays we have a segment with Denny's Restaurant, the football, high school prep football, where you can win, if you answer a trivia question, a Grand Slam breakfast at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner. Ooh, good food, good eating at Denny's, 611 North Overland in Burley. America's Diner. So be listening at about 9:16, 9:17 on Thursdays for that football trivia. And, of course, Denny's Restaurant. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. The left, I've said for a long time in this country, and you know some are your neighbors, some reside in other parts of the country, but the left I've said for a long time, I think is nuts. Now there is a new Halloween costume out. I think it is absolutely kind of funny, and college students have started buying it and making it. And basically what it is, it's a pullover, and it looks like a bunch of bricks. And in the middle of it, it says, "The Wall." It's not saying anything about, "I support the wall." It's not saying anything about immigration. It's not saying anything. It's just "The Wall." And the left is going nuts. And they said, "What? They can't wear that? Why, we've got to stop them from buying that costume because it's," are you ready for this? "Racist." I am not kidding. I saw a picture of a college student. He's wearing the costume, and it says "The Wall," and the left is calling this whole thing racist, and, "Oh, we can't do that. You can't wear that. Why, my goodness, that's terrible." And it's nothing more than just some good-natured ribbing at a circumstance that's going on in this country and, for that matter, the world. A simple costume that just basically shows bricks and mortar called "The Wall." And the left is going out and saying, "Oh, that's racist!" Now, doesn't that just absolutely amplify stupidity? Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. My Chicago Cubs are in deep trouble this morning. They lost 2 games to the Dodgers, and if you're a Yankee fan, they're in deep trouble to the Houston Astros. They're also down 2-0. Ay. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Morning. You know that one guy that said we could keep our white president? Now that's racist.
Yeah.
Everything, I don't know why they can't get it through their head. Racism goes 2 ways. It's just a hate speech is all it is, and it should be banned. You know, I know lots of nice black people, and I know lots of wonderful Mexicans, and I know lots of wonderful Germans and Italians and Polish. Every race has real good people. And it upsets me when people start insulting everybody.
Yeah, wait a minute, though, Jerry.
I'll in there because you're going to tell me to shut up here in a second.
No, I'm not going to tell you to shut up. I'm going to ask you to explain something to me. You just said something that I don't think Jerry Voss meant to say, because I know Jerry Voss. And that is, you said hate speech should be banned. Now, who's going to be the judge on hate speech, and how are you going to ban certain aspects?
I said the word racism is what I meant.
No.
I said that.
Okay.
Because they use it against everybody, and it's a bad word. We're all of a race, and there's people that want to use that to condemn everybody, and I'm tired of hearing it.
Well, you may be tired of hearing it.
I'm just sick and tired of hearing people using that language. People are people to me. I don't know really anybody on this earth I really hate. I disagree with, what Birdaw did, and I think he ought to be punished, and I think he ought to be punished severely. I've heard several say we ought to put him in front of a firing squad. I would really prefer to see him taken out in the desert and buried in the ground and let the ants eat him alive.
Wow.
But if I had a second choice, it would probably be hanging or something like that. To me, a bullet in the chest is an honorable death. The others are not.
Jerry, you always bring provocative thought, and I always applaud you, and I thank you, and appreciate your call, my dear friend.
Okay, you have a wonderful day, and may the Lord bless.
He already has. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. I like Jerry. I really do. I appreciate his calls. Hey, don't forget the big fall tire sale going on at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. And this is really the statement that sums it up. Doing the right thing matters. Oh, Oh, my goodness, those 5 words, how strong they are. A great big fall tire sale for your tires for your car, your pickup, your SUVs, and, of course, don't forget, they've got the best in brake service and front-end alignment, shocks and struts, and batteries. Batteries, very important in the colder weather. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and my buddy Randy on Overland in Burley. We're doing the right thing matters with a big fall tire sale at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Zeb, Earl, just thinking here, in our nation here in America, when we started outsourcing jobs to other countries, I think and I believe that has brought on the problems we're faced with today, because we don't take pride in the products that we pick up today and use.
Interesting thought. One that I'd like to pursue.
Another thing, I remember when I believe the Forest Service, maybe BLM too, started buying foreign pickups to drive around in, and the outrage in this country from that. And that probably would have been maybe at least 40 years ago.
Right. Earl, you always bring up good points, and I wished I had longer, but I got to run to the news right now. Call me when I've got some more time. I'd love to visit with you more about this. Okay? All right. God bless. There's a nice guy right there. Good morning to Earl. Hey, I got to run to the news right now from CBS, and I'll be back in about 6 minutes. Don't you go away. Zeb at the Ranch. Oh, my. Here we go, hour number 2. Zeb at the Ranch, good morning to you, and we'll get right into it. And, of course, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And, of course, some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Western Waste Services, always at your disposal, and it's really the truth. You get a hold of them today. Get on the route service, 734-6969, and they'll come pick up your garbage. It's gone. Wave goodbye. Absolutely the best. Always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, 734-6969. Also want to remind you that with the colder temperatures on the way, you can stay nice and warm and snuggy inside your house with the Lennox Home Comfort System through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. You can possibly get up to a $1,600 rebate on a new Lennox system. Call Ramsey Heating and Electric today at 678-0459. Real fast, before we get our guest on the air, I want to remind you about Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert with my friend, your friend, Joel Heward, his family, and his staff. Always serving you very flexible hours and family attention. And believe me, when there's the passing of a loved one, they are there to help you, always with the highest ethical standards, with unquestioned integrity. Please get a hold of them today. Find out more. 436-5636. That number again, 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary in Rupert. Mondays mean my friends on the air, and that is, of course, my dear friend back in Golden, Colorado, Frosty Woldridge. Good morning, Frosty. How are you?
Well, good morning, Zeb. It's a real pleasure to be with you this morning, and hope things are going well up there in Idaho. They're doing fine here in Golden, Colorado.
You know, Frosty, you write some excellent pieces, and I didn't know if you wanted to elaborate a little bit more on what we were talking about last week. I kind of let you set the stage as to what our first topic of discussion is going to be this morning. Go ahead.
Well, I would like everyone to, if you have a chance, go to newswithviews.com, where you will see all 4 parts of the series Civil War II, The Coming Breakup of America. And in that last part of the series, I really dig into how we can stop it. Because no matter what you appreciate, no matter what we have seen in the past, the key is that we have to start thinking about what's going to happen in the future if we don't stop mass immigration, both legal and illegal. And amazingly enough, you see all of this, I guess, turmoil over building a wall from San Diego all the way down to the bottom of Texas there, and Brownsville. It's 1,952 miles long, if I remember correctly, and I've gone and I've traveled the entire distance, and I've been down there 3 separate times to see exactly what's going on. Of course, it's a sieve, and illegals are coming in at 500,000 a year, and that's according to the Stephen Camarada at www.cis.org. And that study showed that even with what's going on right now, these illegals, they're fleeing out of their own countries, whether it's China or India or Pakistan or Bangladesh or Ethiopia or Sudan or Congo. It doesn't make any difference. They're coming to America, and we are being the recipients of all of this. And if we don't, and if we stop the illegals, we're still taking on 1.1 to 1.2 million refugees every year in legal immigration. And unfortunately, most of them go on welfare. And I find it extraordinarily ironic to keep importing all this poverty because these immigrants simply go on welfare, and we pay for it. Every single one of us that works a job, we have dollars taken out of our taxes every day to pay for someone who's sitting at home watching a TV in an apartment while we go to work, and while our own citizens face unemployment, while our own citizens face the travesty of not being able to get health care, that's known as the Obamacare, or the premiums are going so high, or it's going to collapse no matter what, and yet there's still a fight going on. You also appreciate that our own Republicans and Democrats for the last 20 years have not passed an E-Verify bill to stop this invasion of our country. And you can go right back to, to Speaker Boehner of the House, Ryan right now, you look at Mitch McConnell. These are all Republicans, and they're not doing anything to stop the invasion. And the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, of course, openly does everything it can to create the invasion by making sure that these illegals continue to pour into this country. And also, the other thing about the wall, and the reason I support it, is just common sense. We're still taking in $50 billion worth of drugs every year. In other words, Mexico, our neighbor to the south, sells us, promotes selling us $50 billion in drugs. And I don't know if anyone, Zeb, watched the 60 Minutes last night, but 60 Minutes showed how all of these different drug companies are creating the opioid epidemic that's killing our kids off.
Right.
Over 200,000 deaths in the last, I think, 10 years, it said. And so this is all going on. And when you see the collusion that the Congress and the Senate just recently passed a bill that literally took all the power away from the DEA to prosecute all of these drug companies who are distributing all of these opioids like OxyContin and Extracontin, and it's just unbelievable. And yet there's so much power up there. And just as you saw the interviews, the people that were trying to stop this were being neutralized by the power of the money to go in and buy off the congressmen and the senators to pass a bill by a voice vote. It was, I'm sure everybody that was listening to that, that was Bill Whitaker was the interviewer, and you sit there and you see that our own drug companies are doing everything they can to hook us on these opioids and then let us die, and they're being prescribed. And then all the false little drugstores that are going on across the country and addicting all of American citizens. You sit here and the same thing's going on with this Civil War II, the coming breakup of America, as all of these powerful agents in Congress continue to allow mass immigration, both legal and illegal, into our country. And it's really, you sit there and you go, why? Well, of course, that main interviewer that was trying to get out there and lock these big CEOs up, he just said money. They don't care about the ravaging of communities. They don't care about the drug addiction in the communities. They don't care how many young kids die or older kids die. They just want to make the money. And so that's the same thing with this whole theme of breaking America up by mass immigration and the extraordinary debt that we're accumulating because of it. I don't know if anybody knows this, but I think it's our second president, John Adams, stated that there are two ways to conquer a country. One is by the sword, and the other is by debt. And as you all know, we just crossed over recently to $20 trillion in debt. Mind you that more than 10 trillion of that money came under the Obama administration because they just kept borrowing more money, but also encouraging more illegal immigration and certainly not slowing down the legal immigration. So that's the appreciation of my four-part series on the Civil War II, the coming breakup of America by Thomas Chittum. And hopefully part 4 is a rendition of the fact that the constitutional republic, the one that we live under right now, that has given us so much freedom, is not a spectator sport. The way we make change in this country is that you, the individual citizen, become involved. And I really push 3 websites that are so powerful, and there's over 8 million Americans right now of all low class, middle class, high class, every race, creed, and color. And that is the numbersusa.org, and also the CAPS web, CAPSWEB.org, and Carrying Capacity Network.org. Those 3 organizations are doing everything they can with your power to empower them, and they literally give you the ability to write these pre-written faxes into your senators and into your House reps, and telling that we want to shut down immigration into our country and explain why it's not survivable on the sheer numbers aspect of it, and is certainly not survivable on the sociological aspect of it. And he talks about, even Roy Beck at Numbers USA talks about the sociological impact. And you're seeing it play out right now, whether you see it play out in Detroit, Michigan, with a completely parallel society of Muslims, or you can see the same thing going on in San Diego or Miami. You can see the same thing going on in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And for the record, I've been to those places. I've seen it firsthand myself. You're also seeing it play out with this tribalization of Black Lives Matter, La Raza, the Mexican contingent of a parallel society, and those who are trying to literally retake or take over their sections of the country that they think are theirs. You're also seeing it play out in the NFL right now.
Well, let's
all of these players.
Let me jump in here. Let me jump in here, Frost.
The American flag, the national anthem, and the Constitution in the process. So I hope that I really bring it clearly to the American people in these 4 parts to this series, and that hopefully it makes sense, and it makes enough sense, and you're starting to see all of these ramifications unfold in your own communities, and they will continue to the point where we're not going to have America anymore. We're going to have a polyglot civilization that has no cohesiveness, no single language, no single culture, and that all of us will become minorities. And that's the facts that we're facing, Zeb. And hopefully that is the appreciation that I brought forth in this series.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. Frosty, evidently we got a little trouble with the phone line this morning. Your phone on that end, it sounds like there's like a rasping or a rubbing on the phone, so try to hold that if you can really, really still. One point I want to make, and the left is absolutely nuts on this thing. I don't know if you caught it or not, and to some it might be facetious, but it's got more underlying meaning than that. There was a new Halloween costume that was developed, and it was nothing more than just a pullover, and I saw a picture of it with a college student. It's a pullover that looks like a brick wall with the bricks and the mortar, and in the middle of it, it says The Wall. It's nothing more than a frivolous little joke about the wall, and college students are going to wear this for Halloween, but the left is absolutely nuts about this morning, and they're coming out and they're trying to stop the sale of those Halloween costumes because they're calling it racist. Your comments?
Well, again, as you see that we're literally importing more we're literally importing more racism into this country, and the fact is, if you have a monoethnic society, you have no racism. As soon as you mix races and become a multicultural, diversity-oriented society, you have racism. Racism is international. There's racism in Africa. There's racism in Japan. There's racism in India. There's certainly racism in China. Everywhere you go, when you see any kind of mixing of races, you've got racism. Here in America, we have every possibility for personal achievement and involvement and success because we have laws and we have a society that has done everything it can to give individual people a chance to succeed on their own merits. And what you see going on is simply going to get worse, whether you talk about the Halloween costumes or whatever. And it's my goal to say that we better start managing what we have left in this country as to a somewhat cohesive civilization, and we have to stop fracturing it because, again, these different worldviews, these different cultural proclivities of all these different immigrants, and now you're seeing the African Americans that have been here for the last 400 years are literally revolting against the very foundation of a country. And let me make this very clear: over 500,000 Caucasian Americans died in the Civil War to free all of the African Americans in this country, the blacks, the slaves. And they should really be getting down on their knees and thanking their lucky stars to be living in this country where they have more opportunity than any Africans over in Africa. And so when you see all of these different, just whether it's the latest Halloween costume or the latest Nancy Pelosi ridiculous statements, or somebody like Maxine Waters who is just completely out of touch with reality, I am just aghast half the time. So you're going to see more of this kind of thing going on in the liberal left, and most of these people really don't know the final consequences of what they're literally bringing to the forefront or clashing with and so forth. It's extremely frustrating, Zeb.
Well, I know it is, and we're running out of time, and I want to hit some other aspects of conversation this morning. One being, I was absolutely shocked when I heard yesterday, as a matter of fact, I started hearing about a Biloxi, Mississippi school system saying they're going to cancel and take off the library bookshelves the book called To Kill a Mockingbird. It's absolutely one of the greatest pieces of literature ever written by Harper Lee, the author. It was turned into a award-winning movie, and now, because certain students said that it inspired strong feelings of hatred, some of the students complained, and so they're going to take this book off the bookshelf. Sooner or later, how do you cleanse all of American history so it satisfies everyone?
Well, you can't and you won't, and it's literally impossible. And Gregory Peck, of course, was the star of To Kill a Mockingbird. And again, you'd have to absolutely destroy all of the work by Mark Twain. You'd have to go back in time and just literally burn everything that has to do with what we did. You'd have to destroy the Washington Monument. And George Washington was the man that made all of this possible by leading all of those men and women into battle, whether it's Valley Forge or right on down the line. You'd have to destroy the Thomas Jefferson Memorial. You would have to destroy the Lincoln Monument if you really allowed these people to go after all of our heritage. And folks, we are what we are because of those people who stood up and spoke out and took action in their time. And they did the best they could. And whether it's Susan B. Anthony or Abigail Adams or even Eleanor Roosevelt or Jane Goodall, each did the best they could in their time. And you and I are doing the best we can in our time. And one of the things that I try to bring to the audiences around the country with my columns is just common sense, rational thinking, and simply let's go forth with a reasonable understanding of what we're dealing with here, and take positive action to make America better. And that includes, you cannot change the past, but you can work to change the future, and that's what we've been doing all this time. And as you can see, my thrust, I get called all sorts of names myself, and you get called all sorts of names. But the fact is, we bring integrity to this issue. We bring integrity to the argument. And if you lose integrity and you lose rational thinking as to the argument or the two sides, then you lose your own country. You lose the ability for the constitutional republic to function. And I think it was John Adams said that this country, the constitutional republic, can only move forward and function under a Christian nation that has citizens who, God and country and family, think together, work together, and move together. And, of course, as you can see, we're losing all of that. And I'm hoping that we have enough of us still left to move forward to make this country better for everyone.
The one thing, and by the way, Wheels, all of a sudden something got turned down on your end that is the feed to my headset, so check on that, please. But a real quick, short answer on this, Frosty, is that how do you go about purging and cleansing everything, whether it's literature, whether it's movies, whatever it may be? How do you purge everything as far as what happened in history, or perhaps some of the terminology of that certain period in our history? How do you purge it, bury it, and never bring it to light again? And what good really will that do?
It won't do any good whatsoever. And if this is a constitutional republic, the First Amendment allows you to call everybody names. You can do all sorts of nasty things out there. And that is the part of the Constitution that gives everyone the right to speak up and to write up, if you will. And you can't purge it. In fact, you need to really appreciate it, of where we've come from and where and how we can get to where we want to go. To have a civilization, a country, a culture that really allows every individual the right and the ability to succeed in life. Again, in the Declaration of Independence, the right to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You cannot purge all the negatives. Everybody in this country is walking around with all sorts of problems in their head. You can't purge them. You just have to deal with them. You have to work with them. You have to then move forward. But those your past and your history, whether it's your brother died, your father died, your mother, whatever, you have got to accept and deal with that and move forward in your life. And that's the same thing with our country. And I'll stand by that. And I do the best I can every day, and I think and hope that everybody else is doing the best they can to move forward. And our country will do the best it can to move forward. And some of the reasons that I want to stop all immigration in this country and to stop all of this, horrible and ridiculous motives and actions that are going on. We need to stop Black Lives Matter. We need to stop La Raza. We need to stop the Muslim Brotherhood. That's what we really need to start doing, and that's in the present here, not in the past. We need
I agree.
to start dealing with the present, and that's what I try to do with my writing and my speaking.
All right, Frosty, I'm out of time, flat out of time, and I want to wish you the very best back in Golden, Colorado, and we will talk to you next Monday. God bless, my dear friend. Take care.
Thank you, Zeb.
Thank you, sir. Oh, my goodness, a very, very good conversation every Monday, and I appreciate Frosty Woolridge in Colorado. Thank you. Don't forget Ark Animal Hospital, and boy, now is the time to worm all your animals for the fall. And don't forget, if you've got horses, put in a heated water tank. You don't want them drinking that real cold water. That's how colic is caused. So check it out at Ark Animal Hospital. They can answer your questions. That's 750 21st Street near Connection Credit Union in Heyburn. The number to call Dr. Bill and the rest of the crew at Ark Animal Hospital, 678-1177. They are a mixed animal practice, meaning big or small, they love them all. At Ark Animal Hospital in Heyburn, 678-1177. Also, I want to remind you about our dear friend. Hey, I saw Jeff the other night at the Kimberly football game, Jeff Bronson. He's back at Lee's Furniture and running the show, and I'll tell you what, a great, great job with all the people over at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. Hey, they've got all the window coverings. Hey, they've got all the carpeting and luxury vinyl planks. They've got it all right now, and they're on sale. And if you mention that you heard me, Zeb Bell, talking about Lee's Furniture, you get an additional 10% off on floor covering, carpet, vinyl, and luxury vinyl planks. You better stop over today and say hello to our friend Jeff Bronson and the crew at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More, 459 Overland in Burley. Really, really nice people. We're going to have our next guest on the program momentarily, but first and foremost, I also want to remind you about our friends at Let's Ride, where the fun is sold at 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays, 9 to 4, and we got a little bit of that white stuff on the ground Friday night. Didn't last long, but it was just kind of a warning that more is to come. Well, if you're a snowmobiler, the new 2017 snowmobiles are over at Let's Ride and ready for you. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World, like I say, along with all the four-wheelers and the side-by-sides, all the accessories, great service department at Let's Ride in Rupert, and they are, of course, where the fun is sold. Let's Ride. And real quick, a reminder, too, about our friends at Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Oh, these folks are devoted and dedicated to serving you with the best of life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, and, of course, employee benefits. For you, your family, your business, you'd better call today and make an appointment. 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Call them, make the appointment, and then sit back and know you are protected. Cameron and Siemens Insurance in Rupert. Right now, let's go to the phone line, and a gentleman that I have not had on my program previously, and I'm looking forward to our conversation, Dr. Paul Nathanson. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Morning. How are you?
I am good. Paul, right off the get-go, you've got a new book out, along with, I believe, another doctor, Dr. Catherine Young. Give us the title and the background of the book before we go any further.
Well, actually, we have 4 volumes that have come out in the series, and we have 2 more yet to come. The first one is called Spreading Misandry, and that is the representation of men in popular culture. And then we have misandry being the counterpart of misogyny.
Right.
Then there's a book called Legalizing Misandry, in which we talk about how these negative representations of men get translated into law.
Well, Dr. Nathanson, in your studies with your cohort, in writing these books and finding all this material, is it safe to say, from a layman's point of view, mine, that in our society there's a denigration and a distinct hatred against men in our society? What's going on here?
Well, yes, there is. It is not something, it's something that can coexist with hatred or contempt for women, but it's there. And it doesn't get talked about very much, partly because men are reluctant to talk about something that indicates that their position is shaky, but also because the forces of political correctness allow women to complain about their own problems, not men. So there's a double standard.
When you say that men's position in our society is shaky, how in the world could that be? Explain that a little further, please.
Because laws are being rewritten and have been rewritten over the past 30 or 40 years in various sectors, such as custody, sexual harassment, rape, domestic violence. There are a whole range of legal areas in which laws are being rewritten, in which women have the upper hand. And this was because at one point women were less favored and therefore victims, and now there's a kind of an overcompensation in the other direction.
So are you saying and intimating, and I think you are, and I agree with you entirely, that there is a distinct discrimination against the males in our society?
Yes.
And why is this happening, and who's promoting it?
Well, Catherine and I discuss the notion of ideology. And ideology is something that has a long history in the West and many other parts of the world. It's apart from anything else, it's a worldview which sees the entire world and history in terms of us versus them.
Mm-hmm.
So you've had many ideologies on both the left and the right. There's a school of feminism which is definitely ideological. So many feminists, perhaps most feminists, talk about the equality between men and women. But there are other feminists who don't do that at all. Or they do that only in name. But what they're really after is promoting the interests of women. And if those conflict with men, then men should basically roll over and play dead.
What kind of a society do you and your fellow doctors see in the next 10, 20, or 30 years if this trend is not stopped or it goes around the corner and starts to go the other way? What are we looking at?
I think what's happening, and what is already, in fact, the reality, and not only between men and women, but many other groups in conflict, is the extreme polarization of society. So we have men and women, we have blacks and whites, we have immigrants and native-born. There's a whole list of sort of fault lines, and society organizes itself around these fault lines on one side or the other. So that's what's going on right now. And, I think every time you hear a news broadcast, whether it's between Republicans and Democrats, or liberals and conservatives, or religious and secular, the level of hostility is greatly increasing.
I really, really believe what you're saying, and you can see it and listen to it every day. We can see it on television advertisements. We can see it during talk shows. We can see the denigration of mankind in almost every aspect of our life, can't we?
Yes. It's a really, I think, dangerous situation. And in fact, the ultimate goal of our series of books on men, and there are going to be 6 of them, is what we call intersexual dialogue. What we really need is for men and women to talk to each other, not ranting at each other, not even debating, but listening to each other with some degree of empathy. And that's the only method we can think of which might bring men and women back together in a relatively harmonious way.
This may be
it doesn't only apply to men and women; it applies to all these other groups in conflict.
Right. Now, the way I state this may be in a very naive manner, but really, when you look at the bottom line, the idiocy and incompetency of saying that men basically are unimportant and not a vital part of our economy and our system, the left agenda... And are evil, okay. So who's promoting this? Who's paying the bills to try to push this agenda forward? Who's really responsible for this this type of thought and ideology?
Well, you can find many examples of this in academic circles, which is where I live. These academic circles, of course, produce the lawyers and politicians who more directly influence the course of society. So, I'm not just talking about people living in the proverbial ivory tower. I'm talking about the people who graduate and run law schools, become judges and bureaucrats and politicians. These are the people who, if they are ideologically oriented, they are the ones we're talking about.
Our society, I think, is just clamoring to have maybe a new John Wayne or a new Mickey Mantle or a new Ronald Reagan emerge so that we can look at them with hero status. Because today, I don't see any men, per se, that our society or our younger generation can look up to. Am I wrong?
Well, you've mentioned some heroic archetypes. They're not the only ones. I mean, you might have in some societies, and I'll give you an example. Just in Jewish society, the archetypal hero is a Torah scholar, a learned person. Mm-hmm. There are many ideals of manhood. Harvey Weinstein is not one of them.
Absolutely right. And despicable as he is, he probably, in my opinion, has done more to further the cause of the left and the anti-men than anyone else in the last 3 or 4 years, correct or not?
That's absolutely correct. Because every time some sensationalized event occurs, men are on trial. All men. That's what happens. It's not just one man, it's all men who are on trial. It happened with Clarence Thomas. It happened with Clinton. That's Bill Clinton. It happened with Trump, for that matter. People tend to generalize. People come on the air now and they... Jane Fonda came on the air on CNN a few days ago and said, well, this is just an example. Weinstein is an example of what happens because men have this sense of entitlement and therefore they can do whatever they want. So she's basically saying that that Weinstein represents some deeply rooted historic tradition of ideal manhood, which I think is preposterous.
I don't know how old you are. It's rude to ask, but I'm a 70-year-old man that remembers vividly. All right? I can remember vividly growing up, and you can too, Doctor, the covers of the Saturday Evening Post with the families walking to church on Sunday morning, or the family gathered around with Dad carving the turkey on Thanksgiving. It was a wholesome family and a wholesome outlook on the American family. Is that gone forever?
Well, it exists in pockets. There are communities. They're becoming more and more isolated. But there are communities in which those things continue to be valued. But as I say, they're becoming more and more isolated. They're not the norm.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being really serious, 1 being not so bad, where are we in this American society as to the denigration of men and not respecting men?
Well, I'd say 8 or 9.
Wow.
You know, if 10 is the ultimate level, then that would involve, mass murder. But we're not there yet. But it's certainly a very serious problem.
How do you...
It's a serious problem partly because we have boys growing up who are finding it increasingly difficult to establish a healthy identity as men.
Right.
And by a healthy identity, I mean an identity that is, first of all, distinctive, something that only men can contribute to society. Secondly, necessary, something that men can do that is necessary for the well-being of society. And C, publicly valued. Now, there are not many things that I can think of that fit all 3 criteria. The only one I can think of is fatherhood, and even fatherhood is being undermined every day as a kind of assistant motherhood at best.
Yeah. I would be amiss if I didn't ask your opinion on a story that emerged last week, and I know you've heard about it, with the Boy Scouts of America weakening and lowering their standards to the point where they're letting any and all come in, and now they're trying to denigrate the Girl Scouts and destroy their organization by welcoming girls into the Boy Scouts, and I find that appalling. What are your thoughts?
Well, I agree with you. There are fewer and fewer places where boys can learn to be men, and they can't do that, I think, effectively if they are interchangeable with girls. That's not to say that I'm trying to promote sexual segregation in all areas, but I think that there are some areas where it might be useful. And I think that for boys growing up, that is one place that is useful.
When you look at...
might be another.
Yeah. When you look at this situation, Doctor, and with your expertise, I guess the obvious question would be, how do we change it and restore a value system of men being men, women being women, and a respect for both?
Well, that's the ultimate question. That's the big question. And if Catherine and I knew the answer to that, we would have Nobel Prizes. All we can do is propose a method. It's what we call dialogue. And dialogue, we define it very carefully as a particular kind of conversation. And we outline 10 principles that people would have to assimilate before they could engage in this. It would involve a real change of the way we think. So it's a major project. It was, we're building on the history of interreligious dialogue. So that began around 50 or 60 years ago and has had some success, not as much as some people had hoped, but it's the kind of attitude toward the other that we need to foster. Respect for the other, listening to the other instead of pretending that we know all about the other before we even start.
I listened to you this morning, and you really piqued my interest to the point where I would like to get your books and do some private study on my own and have you back again to talk about this, because whether it's television commercials, whether it's talk shows, whether it's newspaper stories, whatever it is, anybody with an open eye... Pardon me?
Well, the books are on Amazon.
Uh-huh. And they're on Amazon, and I'm certainly going to keep telling my readers about where they're available. But the bottom line, when you close the cover of your books between you and Dr. Young, what's the main thing that you want the readers to take away that hopefully will help this situation?
The main thing is that men have got to develop a healthy collective identity as men. That's the bottom line. Otherwise, we cannot repair the damage.
Absolutely. Dr. Paul Nathanson, and I commend you, sir, for coming on the program. Compliment to you on your book with Dr. Young, and I'll have you back as soon as I do get those books, and we'll talk further. Thank you so much for your time here this morning.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You know, what he's talking about is absolutely the truth, and you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this out, that when you watch the television commercials or listen to radio commercials or see the so-called sitcoms, absolutely brainless, denigrating men in their content. And there's a commercial on TV that I talked about last week that absolutely just repulses me. It shows the man in that commercial as being just absolutely a willowy wisp of nothingness, and that's what they're trying to portray men as today. What are your thoughts on this? Give me a call. I'd like to hear what you have to say about it. And I'd like to get them both on the air together, Dr. Paul Nathanson and Dr. Catherine Young, on, again, after I get a chance to look at their books. But they're spot on as far as I'm concerned. Our society, very unfortunately, is really denigrating men. Your thoughts, give me a call quickly. While I'm waiting for your call, I'd like to also have the weather forecast here, brought to you by Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. As a matter of fact, I'll be over there in just a matter of maybe another hour or so. And they provide accounting services to the Mini-Cash area and have for well over 50 years. The very best of tax return preparation, tax planning, financial statement preparation, payroll services, so much more. They are there to serve you, your family, and your business. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company in Burley and Rupert. And right now, here's the weather.
It's warming up for this week, which we're all thankful for, at least I am. And here is your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch. Looking at sunny skies for today, a little bit on the breezy side, not too bad. High of 64 is what we're looking at tonight. Clear skies, low of 34. Tomorrow, sunny skies, warming up to 68 with an overnight low of 36. And for Wednesday and Thursday, hold on to this one, sunny skies and 70. That's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you, Gina, and brought to you this hour by Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't forget Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company, CPAs in Burley and Rupert. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. I am so glad that you had that guy on. I felt this way for years, and it's difficult to even talk about it because women will shout you down, and you can't get a word in edgewise. This guy is 100% right.
You know, okay, stop for a minute and just answer this. What in your life have you noticed personally that has been a denigration of men or a disrespect for men?
Many times. I've approached women to do something in a totally innocent way, and I get attacked for petty stuff. My wife doesn't see it. I don't think women notice this, but men do, and it's difficult to talk about.
I agree with you, and we're going to talk further about it. Thank you for your call. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you. You know what the man just said, and you can see it. Honestly, just watch television. Watch television, and I hate to even say watch some of these filthy, sleazy sitcoms, but the men are always at a stage or a level below. And the commercials, the same way. Most of the men in the commercials, the storyline is that there are bumbling dolts and the women have to go through and save the day. It's a complete process. You can see it, you can hear it, and you can read about it. Because it's nothing like what it was when I was growing up. There was a complete family union, respect. Father to the wife, wife back to the husband, and then to the children, and then back to the parents. It's not like that anymore because Dad is a bumbling dolt, according to the way Hollywood and society is today. And this is being, I agree with Dr. Nathanson a little bit ago, it's a complete plot and plan to denigrate and destroy, I think, the American family. What are your thoughts on this? Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'll give you a quick example, and then I've got to do a commercial. But a couple of years ago, in Twin Falls, I was walking up the courthouse steps. I had to go in and renew my driver's license. And I walked up the steps, and there was a woman coming up behind me, and I turned to one side, opened the door, and she stopped and looked me right in the face and said, "Sir, you don't have to open a door for me. I can open it myself." And instead of going through the open door, she went through another door that she could open. There's about, 6, 7 doors there or something like that. I can't remember. And she opened the door herself and went in, and I thought, holy cow, I was trying to be a gentleman. But to no avail, she attacked me in kind of a, I'm holier than men, and said, no, I can open the door myself. And that's what's going on. It's a lowering of standards. And it's a raising of women don't need men, society don't need men, and so let's ridicule them. If you can't see it, really sit back and watch. Don't forget Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center at 924 Christian Way in Rupert. Oh, by the way, Halloween right around the corner, and they really want to invite all the residents are really going to be excited to have Halloween because they're going to be giving out candy to the kids. And you can come and trick or treat at Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center. They would absolutely love you to take the time with your wee ones to stop by with all the Halloween costumes and everything, and the residents of Autumn Haven would love to celebrate trick-or-treat with you, your family, and your children. So please don't forget that. They're located at 924 Christian Way in Rupert. Number to call, 436-3200. They're small compared to some, but with a bigger heart than most. Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center. And don't you forget to call, 436-3200. All right, we're going to take a little break for a few moments and send it back over to Wheels at our main studio, and then we're coming back. Next hour, we've got Mark Miller, attorney with the Pacific Legal Foundation. He's going to be talking about the EPA and how they're trying to avoid high Supreme Court review on the waters of the United States. And then at 10:30, we're going to have Richard Manning on talking about the healthcare system and what's going on with the Republicans and the Democrats. So stay tuned. We've got a full plate left. Zeb at the Ranch on a Monday. Old Charlie, good old friend of mine. Morning, Zeb at the Ranch, and of course with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations, great big fall tire sale going on right now. And also some of our great advertisers, including Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Call them at 734-6969. Want to remind you, too, about Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox Home Comfort Systems teamed up to make you all comfortable and cozy these cold winter days that are on the way. And you might get up to a $1,600 rebate on a new Lennox Home Comfort System. How do you find out more about it? You call Ramsey Heating and Electric today at 678-0459. Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox. Also, don't forget on Thursdays we have a segment on my program program called Cassia County School Days. Really interesting segment on education here in Idaho. And it's brought to you by A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley, with all the baby furniture, especially all the cribs, and the top-rated #1 car seat by Chico. You be sure and stop in to a family store, A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley. And also with Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue, Suite E in Burley. The number to call and find out more about how they can save you money on outpatient surgeries like life-saving colonoscopies, carpal hand tunnel, or let me say that over again, carpal tunnel, hand surgery, etc., and much more at Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley, 677-8888. Along with The Child's World, bringing you School Days in Cassia County. Right now, let's go to the phone and say good morning to Pacific Legal Foundation's attorney, Mark Miller. Good morning, Mark. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. Thank you for having me on. I'm doing well.
You know, Mark, it just seems so absolutely ridiculous to me that the EPA and their frivolous waters of the United States that might even gather up a pond, a little bitty pond that somebody digs out in their orchard for their boy to float a little toy boat, they're trying to control everything and make it so that they can't be sued. What's going on here?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Zeb. Last week, the Supreme Court of the United States heard arguments in a case that isn't about the waters of the United States rule in terms of how far it goes. As you said, any small little pond or a ditch, or in my front yard here in Florida, the swales where the water gathers after it rains. You know, can the federal government force me to get a permit if I'm going to affect that swale? Well, the federal government would tell you, yes, of course it can. We're not down that road too far yet in terms of how far they can go in the courts. Where we are right now is challenging the federal government in terms of what it says we can even complain about. They want us to be able to only sue if they change the rules, the Waters of the United States rule. If they rewrite the rules, they say you can only challenge that within 4 months. And if you don't do so in 4 months, then forever you lose the opportunity to sue. And then secondarily, they also want to control what court you can sue in or challenge the rule change in as to the Waters of the United States rule. They want to say you have to bring that first case in the appeals court, the federal appeals court, which would be fairly unusual, instead of in the district courts, the trial courts, where typically Pacific Legal is challenging the agency, the EPA, when it, or the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, when they apply the Waters of the United States rule.
Let me make sure I understand this, Mark. They, the EPA, are saying that you can only sue them up to a period of not more than 4 months, and then it's going to be a has-been story?
Yeah, their position would be, and when you say you want to understand it, I need to make sure I understand it too, frankly, Zeb, because the federal government is constantly changing its positions to make it more and more complicated to even challenge the government. You know, that's really what Pacific Legal ends up doing, is we push back against the federal government when it acts too much like the king and just tries to tell us what the rules are going to be and then tells us to live with it, rather than the republic we're supposed to be and that our founding fathers believed in, which is the idea that if our government does something wrong, we can challenge it. And so we try to open the door so people can sue. The federal government is saying, oh, sure, you can sue us if you don't like the way we're applying the Clean Water Act to your property, the Clean Water, the Waters of the United States rule. But you only have 4 months to do so. And once we promulgate that rule, if you don't sue within 4 months, you're out of luck. And our argument would be no. Normally under federal law, you would have 6 years to challenge the federal government when it goes too far in the way it regulates your property with the Clean Water Act. And it should be no different with the Waters of the United States rule.
Mark, this is almost like a gratuitous pat on the head. Hey, little taxpayer, now if you can't follow through and get your information put together in 4 months, you go off in the corner and just sit there and twiddle your thumbs because big boy EPA is in control. That's what it sounds like to me.
And you know, you're really getting at, Zeb, what we're seeing in Washington in general with the new administration, where the bureaucrats who are entrenched feel exactly that way. Like they're going to pat the Republicans who've won now on the head and say, well, that's nice. You think you've won an election. You think you're going to change things. But here in the deep state, we're not going to let you change anything. And this is a good example of that concretely, that the Trump administration has been trying to change this Waters United States rule. Right now, we're challenging the Obama version of the rule, which is actually on hold. In fact, that was one of the series of questions at the Supreme Court last week, is if the Obama rule is on hold, if it is stayed, and the Trump administration has said it's withdrawing it, then should we even be in court? And our argument is, yes, we should be, and I think the justices agree with us, because even if the rule is going to be withdrawn, this timeline that they want, this you have 4 months to challenge or forevermore you lose the right, that would apply either way. And unfortunately, regardless of which political party is in control, what we've seen is the federal government tries to push its authority as far as it can and expects the people just to take it. And so regardless of whether it's a new version of the Waters United States rule, the WOTUS rule, or the older version, the Obama version from 2015, either way, we should be able to challenge that rule for 6 years. We should have the right to challenge it. And if the federal government's right, if the judges who are supposed to be independent sign off on what the federal government says and says, in fact, the federal government can regulate your property, even though you don't think you're anywhere near having federal water on your land, okay, sure, you lose. But at least you should be able to sue.
You know, what gets me and makes me fighting mad over this situation, Mark, is the time frame as opposed to other court cases. Do you, as an attorney with the Pacific Legal Foundation, know of any other circumstances that allow only a 4-month window? I don't. That's what I'm asking.
Well, when it comes to certain rules, like under the Clean Air Act and a few other sort of esoteric situations, there is this ridiculously tight deadline to challenge.
Why?
We would say you should never have that, Zeb. And most of the time you don't. But it just shows you how far the federal government is trying to go by pushing it here.
But when you say 120 days, I mean, my goodness, I'm not a lawyer. I stayed at a Holiday Inn one time, but I'm not a lawyer. And I sit here and I go, my goodness, 120 days, and to put the court case together and get all the lawyers and all the paperwork and all the things done in 120 days, plus the person that has been harmed still has to try to make a living and have a job, that's almost impossible. And they know this, and that's why they stuck with the 4 months, I believe.
Yes, and it set off a melee in the courts, Zeb, because not only do you have that tight deadline, so everyone across the country who knew about this, all the different associations, the ranchers, the farmers, the industry groups, everyone had to sue. But then you take it one step further. Because not only are they arguing about that tight deadline, but they say you're supposed to sue in the appeals courts. Well, we think you're supposed to sue and challenge it in the trial courts.
Right.
So everyone's filing in two different courts, and so you have just this complete bedlam, this inefficiency, if you will, that really you would expect Congress to have drafted the law a little bit better to avoid that. Be that as it may, the Supreme Court, the justices do appear ready to interpret the rule and the statute in a fair way for the American taxpayer and create the longer deadline, recognize, I should say, not create, it's Congress that creates, but recognize Congress would want the 6-year period window to sue. And at the same time, I suspect they're going to say as well, you should sue in the district court and the trial court, which is the more logical place to bring an action.
How does one, and this is kind of an all-encompassing question to you, Mark, but with the EPA and their cancerous growth and their dominating powers, I go back to the case in Fort Bridger, Wyoming, with Andy Johnson and his family with a farm pond, and I go to other stories that we've heard, horrendous stories about people and their lives being thrown into the court system and the money and the absolute loss of their income, etc. The EPA knows this. Why and how did they get so many cancerous powers to control the people in this country?
Well, like so many other ills that I can point to in our culture right now, unfortunately, I'm going to point to the 1970s and Richard Nixon's administration. That the 1970s brought us all sorts of bad things socially and culturally, including disco music. But one of the things they brought us also was the EPA under Nixon, the Clean Water Act, so many of these environmental acts that may have been well-intentioned, but they went out of control. The Nixon administration wasn't paying attention, and they have now metastasized to where the federal government takes the position that the environment animal interests when it comes to Fish and Wildlife and the Endangered Species Act, or here the Clean Water Act, that their interests come ahead of human interests. And that is such a backwards way of looking at the way to protect the environment. You know, in third world nations where you have banana republics, Zeb, they don't protect the environment. They don't worry about animals at all. They don't worry about clean water. They don't worry about clean air. It's the first world nations that have advanced, you know, to be very advanced societies like the United States that worry about the environment. But let's do it logically, because if you hold back these advanced civilizations, then they're not going to be able to protect the environment because they can't find jobs. And we're going to regress as a society. And so that's why, you know, there's nothing wrong. In fact, we all applaud wanting to protect the environment. Everyone wants to protect the environment. But I would suggest the way they designed it in the 70s has not really reaped the benefits they expected. Instead, it's just about the federal government controlling the people.
Isn't it really ambiguous and ridiculous to have the EPA act like this after the pollution that they caused in that river not too long ago, and they won't hold themselves liable or up for any expenses? I mean, this is almost like do as I say, don't do as I do, and don't question me.
Yeah, well, don't question me is definitely the question, and it's definitely the way the federal government proceeds. And that's what Pacific Legal does. We question them, we challenge them. I would agree with you that river disaster out west, it's outrageous that that had been a for-profit business. Probably the managers, the directors would be up on trial for criminal charges. Instead, the federal government says, whoops-a-daisy, and just expects us to look the other way. Regardless of that, you know, accidents are going to happen, but what's outrageous is the federal government says, well, we can make accidents happen and there will be no consequences, but if you, the private citizen, have an accident, we're going to hold you liable as if you're a criminal. There really has to be some sort of middle ground where we say accidents are going to happen, yes, there may be penalties, but at the same time, you don't charge someone criminally, which is so often what we see, or you may as well charge them criminally, like you said with Andy Johnson, or with our clients, the Sackett, Duarte Farms, where people are looking at $37,000 fines a day, $37,500 a day, because the federal government says they polluted water, they discharged into federal waters of the United States. I mean, that kind of fine, you may as well put someone in jail because you're going to destroy them, you're going to break their backs, whether it be individually or the business. And putting businesses out of business should not be what the federal government is there for. It should not be what the EPA and the Corps of Engineers are there for.
I have an obviously naive question, and I'm sure you've got a great answer for it. But, Mark, how do they know all that's going on? How do they know if somebody dug a little farm pond? How do they know if some dad dug a little boat pond out in their orchard? How do they know all these things so they proceed with court regulations against these people?
Well, it just seems to me what I have seen, Zeb, since I've been at Pacific Legal, is it's just a nosy bureaucrat who is maybe driving by. In the Duarte case, where we represented a farm owner out in California, who a bureaucrat was just driving by his farm and decided that even though he was farming, which is supposed to be an exception under the Clean Water Act, that because the land he was farming for years had not been farmed, it was no longer accepted from the Clean Water Act. It was no longer protected from enforcement. So he's driving by, he sees some farming going on, and he decides, well, he knows that once in a blue moon, once in a rainy season every year, there are a little bit of pools on that farmland, vernal pools that quickly fade away and go back to being dry land. But he says, well, there are pools there. There's a map from decades and decades ago that shows that occasionally there are pools there. So you are violating the Clean Water Act. He threatens Mr. Duarte with fines into the millions of dollars. And I mentioned earlier, I alluded to the idea that whether it be the Democrats or the Republicans in control, both of them seem to like power. And this is a perfect example of it because it was the Obama administration, a bureaucrat way down below, but in the Obama administration effectively, who brought the claim against John Duarte and Duarte Farm. But then it was the Trump administration who took over the case and just as zealously prosecuted Mr. Duarte, such that earlier this year, and I'm sure you have spoken with my colleagues about it, Pacific Legal, earlier this year he had to plead to $1 million. He had to settle the case to $1 million fine, or fines, and then monies up to $1 million to supposedly buy other wetlands and protect them. And really, John had done nothing wrong. But if he had not settled the case, he was looking at $18 million. Basically, ruined his fines, would have put him out of business, would have put all his employees out of work, and the current administration did not take any softer line with Mr. Duarte than the prior administration.
We have a caller with a comment.
That's what it is so often. It's just a bureaucrat sticking their nose into someone's business.
Absolutely. We have a caller with a question for you, Mark. Stand by. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Quickly, I'm almost out of time. Go ahead.
Well, is it going to help that Scott Pruitt is there and if things going to settle back? And then on this Duarte case, I was in the middle of dialing when you were settling. So they were hoping the Trump administration would come in and help, and I didn't quite hear that answer. I'll hang up.
Would you respond to the caller, please, Mark?
Yes. I'll take it backwards. So the second question of the Duarte, yes, there was a belief that the new administration would be more reasonable about these kind of enforcement actions. But unfortunately, we did not see that play out in the Duarte case. I hope it will play out in other cases. I have a case right now in Michigan, not all that unlike this situation. Not that someone's looking at a fine, but I'm trying to get a project through, a road project, and the administration, the EPA, is taking a hard line on it, and it hasn't changed between the Obama administration and the Trump administration. And similarly for Mr. Duarte, it didn't change. As for Mr. Pruitt, the former Oklahoma AG, one would hope he's going to be more reasonable. I'd like to see it play out. Certainly, I think President Trump wants his administration to be more reasonable. He's given every reason to think he wants that. But can the deep state thwart what President Trump wants? That's the question, and I don't really see a good answer to that question just yet. But we do have a few years to find out, if not another, 3 years plus another presidential term if he gets reelected.
Let me ask you one final thought here, and I'm really concerned because I've been involved in agriculture all of my life, Mark, and agriculture in general and agricultural practices could be endangered as an endangered species if the EPA is left unchecked on this issue. Am I wrong?
No, you're exactly right. And it's not just the EPA, but it's the Corps of Engineers, or as I alluded to earlier, Fish and Wildlife Service, that puts animals over, say, farming interests. For example, out west with the mullet fish, where they refused to send waters to the farmers in California when they were going through a drought because they needed the waters for this little bait fish. And so even though this bait fish is, all over the country, but this particular version of the bait fish had a special name, and so they said that fish is more important than the farmers. And many farmers lost their farms because of that rule. Again, because of these decisions in the 1970s, the case I'm thinking of was 1978, where the Supreme Court applied the Endangered Species Act. It's called TVA versus Hill, and said the animals are more important than human interests. Of course, the animals are very important. We can all agree on that. But if you're going to shut down farms and businesses and human interests, the animals aren't going to get protected at the end of the day because we're not going to be able to afford to.
Absolutely.
So I hope this current administration is going to take control of the bureaucratic state. They talk about getting new appointments in. Senator Schumer and the Democrats are doing everything they can to slow walk the new appointments that President Trump is asking for. They really need to get moving if we're going to see positive change in favor of farmers and small businesses and the like.
Let me ask you one final thought. Give me a short answer on this. I'm out of time, but what would you tell my audience? Is there anything common citizens can do to help this problem that's growing like a cancer with the EPA? What would you tell my listeners?
Zeb, what I would tell your listeners is to go to my law firm's website. We're a nonprofit, pacificlegal.org. So what I mean by nonprofit is we represent landowners, small farmers, businessmen, small businessmen, at no charge. So where you think you can't fight the federal government, we do it for you. We have won 9 cases at the Supreme Court, usually on behalf of small businessmen or individuals, where we push back against the EPA, the Corps of Engineers, or even state agencies. Here in Florida, 2 years ago, we beat a state agency when they tried to take a man's property without paying him for it. And so if you believe in pushing back against the government and you think you can't fight City Hall, Pacific Legal does it. And if you support us in that, we represent our clients at no charge. And the reason we can do so is because people donate money to us to let us do it. So I'd ask them to go pacificlegal.org, read about our cases, and if you like what we do, please consider making a donation.
You know, Mark, I really appreciate the job and the effort that you folks put forth, and I'm going to have you back, and we'll talk about this case further. Mark Miller with the Pacific Legal Foundation. God bless you, man. Thanks for all you do. We appreciate it.
God bless you, too, Zeb. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You know, I am incensed as to the Gestapo power that the EPA tries to put and hang over all of us. And, you know, like the Johnson family over in Wyoming, I had them on the air over a stock pond that they had dug. They went through the state of Wyoming to get all the necessary approvals and everything. But wait a minute, the EPA came in and said, we're going to nail you for $37,500 a day because you didn't come and bow down to our throne at the EPA. We're going to shut you down. We're going to take your ranch. We're going to stop everything to do with your family, etc. This is the cancerous power of the EPA and the Waters of the United States Act. Got to stop, got to change, and you are asked to be of help. And people like the Pacific Legal Foundation, believe me, great folks, great attorneys fighting for us. Hey, don't forget Halloween. Halloween. I love this Four Paws annual party and costume parade. It's going to be Saturday, October 28th. From 1 to 3, they're going to have parade judging, and this is going to be a lot of fun. And free refreshments, pictures, and prizes for pets and their families, and for your pets to have different costumes. They've got costumes over there, 25% off at Four Paws Bed and Bath. This is really a neat place. 370 West, 200 South of Rupert, and Halloween Four Paws annual party and costume parade, October 28th at Four Paws, 370 West, 200 South, Rupert, 438-4444. It's really a neat deal. Oh, I got to get ready to go to the break at the bottom of the hour. Well, Wheels is ready to have the next little bit of action, and then we'll come back, and we've got the president of Americans for Limited Government, Richard Manning, on our program, and he has worked with President Trump on trade issues and knows a lot about the man and what's going on with health care. We're going to talk to him about that. Right now, let's send it back over to our main studios. Wheels, take it away.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Welcome back, and thank you very much. You know, I've said for a long time, let the man do his thing. And I'm talking about President Donald Trump. And many of the different items and many of the different subjects that he's trying to change, I think, to make America great again. One of which I like the approach on health care with the competition and the crossing state lines, etc. I think, for heaven's sakes, let's get this thing out of the dark ages and start moving progressively towards a program that's going to work for the betterment of the health care system in this United States. With me right now, Richard Manning, president of the Americans for Limited Government. Richard, good morning. What are your thoughts about Trump, health care, and where in the heck we're at right now?
Okay, well, there's where the heck we're at right now is we're in a mess. But I think the president's taken some actions to try to move the ball. The first thing which you spoke about was the cross state lines, allowing more competition, potentially developing lower cost alternatives through a regulation. And what President Trump has asked his Department of Labor to do is to see if, under the existing Obamacare law, regulations could be drafted that would allow for the sale of health care policies, health insurance policies across state lines. Additionally, to see if those policies could in fact offer what would be a catastrophic plan, which would be a lower cost plan which doesn't cover all the bells and whistles, but instead would just cover
some basic needs in the event of a major health insurance need. So he's asked the Department of Labor to take a look at that and try to do that. And so they've got some very smart lawyers over there who are trying to figure it out. And if it would stand up to scrutiny under in federal court, given the fact that it will have to be a regulation that actually is allowed based upon the language of Obamacare, which was passed. So that's the first thing that he's done. It's not something that's immediate, but it's got a long-term potential impact. The second thing that is immediate, and I think is more immediately relevant, is he made a decision that President Obama's previous habit of breaking the law by just giving money to whoever he wanted to was not going to be continued. President Obama was sued by the House of Representatives to stop giving, allocating money to health insurers, to bail out health insurers, and which was not allowed under Obamacare. It was not part of the law. President Obama, because health insurers were going broke under the Obamacare law, was giving subsidies to the health insurers to keep them in the game. And that was not allocated, was not decided on by Congress. And as we know, Article 1 specifically leaves it up to Congress to decide about appropriations of monies, and President Obama was violating that. The federal courts agreed with the House of Representatives when they sued, and President Trump reviewed the policy and decided last week that he was going to discontinue it. It was no longer going to provide bailouts for health insurers. That is going to have an immediate impact and an important impact.
You know, Richard, now let's just break this down really slow so that everybody is appreciating what's going on here. Number one, I believe in competition. I don't care if it's on the gridiron, on the basketball court, or if it's in insurance or any kind of sales. Competition breeds an environment where the consumer always ends up with the right to choose at a price that would best befit their situation. That's been taken away from healthcare. And I absolutely applaud anything that would create and stimulate competition, which would be a betterment for everybody.
Oh, I agree. And it's the reason that the funding, the bailout, eliminating the bailout matters is because it's going to force Congress to revisit health care. Because he basically flipped the table over on this whole health care debate, because before there were winners and losers. And the losers were the American people. The winners were, the health insurers that were getting a bailout every single year. Well, now they're not getting; those health insurers aren't getting a bailout, and so now there's a whole bunch of losers and very few winners under Obamacare. And as a result, they're now the political will may finally be there to actually pass something which would, in fact, dramatically impact Obamacare, would get rid of individual mandates, get rid of employer mandates, allow more state flexibility, and hopefully would put directly into law what President Obama is asking our good friends at the Department of Labor to do regulatorily, but perhaps be able to write that directly into the law so it's unambiguous in terms of the intent of Congress. If they do that, and the health insurers get a subsidy in order to stay in the game until the markets kind of do their will, at that juncture, I think that's a deal that I think can be made. It's not the deal I'd want to have made. I'd like for them to strip the whole thing away and get rid of Obamacare in its entirety. But I think, sometimes you have to start dealing in the art of the possible, and I think that is the art of the possible. And it's only possible because President Trump decided to follow the Constitution and say Congress wants these health insurers to get this money. Congress needs to say so. They need to vote on it. And that forces Congress now to redeal the entire deck on health care, and I think it's going to change the votes, and I think we've got a reasonable chance to pass some substantial reform of Obamacare even though we're not going to get rid of all of it.
Richard, I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, please, but I would imagine that the skunk in the woodpile is the Democrats like Schumer, etc., because they don't want to see this competition. They don't want to see a program that would benefit people across state lines to where they could pick and choose the programs that are best going to befit their situation. They want a single-payer insurance, and they're going to fight tooth and nail to try to get more control through single-payer health insurance. Am I wrong?
You're right. There's two skunks that have been operating in tandem, though, and the skunk number one has been the Blue Cross Blue Shield networks, which have state affiliates in every state, and so they dominate the insurance markets in each state, but there's no cross-state line competition. And so those people have a vested interest in keeping the state systems in place in their entirety. They have a vested interest to keep the status quo. Schumer has a vested interest to keep the status quo because Obamacare is collapsing, and he's betting that he will be able to get a single payer system put into place by 2021 if Obama collapses now and the Republicans fail to do anything about it. So that's the Schumer bet. He's not going to be a friend on this. But Zeb, here's the critical thing. Your listeners have probably heard a lot about this, how the Senate rules and all that kind of stuff. Well, there's a simple Senate rule that exists that makes it really, really easy. The parliamentarian of the Senate can say, the budget reconciliation bill is over because we're past September 30th of 2017. And it takes 50 senators plus one, the vice president, to overrule the parliamentarian and say, no, this is still allowed. And they can still do it under the 2017 budget reconciliation. And they can, in fact, do it with 51 votes. Mm-hmm. So that's the difference. They don't need Schumer. They need one more vote is what they need.
I'm going to...
And the insurance industry pushing hard to try to get appropriations for them will have a lot of support on both sides of the aisle. And as a result, the cost of them getting that will be doing the full reform that needs to be done on Obamacare and be able to return us to a market-based system, at least near a market-based system, so we can move forward.
Absolutely.
And get by at least the initial crisis on this problem.
Absolutely. I've had many, many conversations with our United States Senator Mike Crapo over this health care, and I believe that Mike is on the right track. However, I would say, and I'd venture to estimate, that there are most of the senators back in Washington right now that really don't understand health care and don't understand this problem, and they just go along to get along. Am I wrong on that?
I don't know what they understand and what they don't understand. I do know this. They've spent a lot of time on it, and so there's an increased understanding of the nuances of the law. What I don't think they really understand is that there's a devastation that's occurring around the country as you see some areas having one health insurer for providing individual coverage. They don't see that people are spending huge amounts of money for premiums and then are finding out that they've got a deductible that means they never actually get to use their insurance, but they're still having to go to the doctor and do all the normal stuff you do. They're not seeing that. They're not seeing the fact that you got 6 million Americans who are actually on health insurance, are paying taxes because of the individual mandate, and paying $3 billion in taxes because they'd rather pay $500 each year to the government than have to pay thousands of dollars for health insurance that they can't afford.
Yeah.
People are still going to the doctor; they're paying out of pocket, but they can't afford the health insurance that Obamacare said was going to be affordable. This system's collapsed. It's collapsing in its entirety. But for the average American, it has collapsed.
Yeah.
And now we need to fix it. We know that the employer mandate has cost at least 250,000 jobs. We know that there are millions of people who have been basically put into a part-time position, or have not been able to be advanced to full-time, or have not been hired because you don't want to get above 50 employees and get subject to the employer mandate as an employer. So we know that there's millions of jobs that are being impacted, millions of people are being impacted, but just negatively economically, and we have to fix this so people can get back on track and be able to fend for themselves. And for people not to be able to get jobs because of health insurance is insane. And yet that's what's been set up with Obamacare, and we have to fix that. And what Donald Trump did is he said, well, I'm not going to play the game the same way as everybody else. I'm not going to pay these subsidies. It's unconstitutional. Let Congress decide it. And by doing that, he's forcing Congress to deal with all these other problems and forcing them to go back, take another bite of the apple. And this time I think there'll be some urgency, and I think they'll get it done.
Richard, let me ask you this, and I don't know the answer to this question, and I'm opening it up to the point where I might be naive in even asking it. But are there enough companies left in the United States, health insurance companies, that they can regenerate themselves and create another stimulus package of better and more informed insurance programs for the masses, or have most of the companies left the business? I mean, are there enough to really create this feeling of competition?
Yes. Yes, it's a. We have the health insurance industry exists. It isn't thriving, but with the subsidies, they've been able to be profitable. And they're not going to like it because it's different. It's much easier to exist on subsidy than it is to actually compete.
Right.
But yes, there are companies that are in this game already who would be able to go and offer plans and across state lines that would be able to that would compete, and some would fail in that competition and others would succeed. But that's the way it's supposed to work. This artificial way of we're going to prop you up and make certain that you're basically on a slow medium oil, and but while the economy dies and while customers can no longer afford your product, is absurd. It's led us to have 12 to 15% premium increases this upcoming year is what they're talking about. So we just keep seeing premiums go up. We see policies get worse, and and people don't have choice. So when you get down to it, we have to reshuffle the deck, and there are adequate U.S. companies in place to do just that. We just need to unleash them and allow them to compete.
One final thought, Richard, before I let you go, but the liberal media is, I think, hand in glove with the Schumers and Pelosi's, etc., in misinforming the American public as to how dastardly a single-payer health insurance program could be. It could absolutely spell the death knell for many people in this country trying to get the service of medical care that they need. What are your thoughts? Am I way off base on that statement, or do you agree with me?
You're absolutely right. It's a single payer. We know what happens. If you're 75 years old and you need a knee replacement, they're going to take a look and say, well, gee, do you really need a knee replacement? Because you're only going to live for another 7 years, and we're not going to get full value out of that expenditure.
Right.
So, and it'll take you a year to 2 years to get the knee replacement. In the meantime, so if you think the long lines at the VA are good for veterans' health care, then you would love single payer, because we have a model here in America. It's the VA, and it's failed.
Absolutely. Richard Manning, I just value you coming on my program. You're very, very knowledgeable, President of Americans for Limited Government. Thank you so much, and please come back in the future. Thank you very much.
Anytime, Zeb. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Thank you. That man is very knowledgeable about what he's talking about. As I said, he worked directly with now President Trump on trade issues, and I just absolutely value his friendship on this program. Richard Manning, President of Americans for Limited Government. Thank you very much. Right now, we've got to get a weather forecast on here, and the weather brought to you by Don Scarrow and the crew at Scarrow's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Oh, the number to call, 324-7657. Or you can go to their website. Oh, man, that website. All the delicious retail meats they've got over there. I'm telling you, scarrowsmeats.com. It's good. Always is. Scarrow's Meats in Jerome. And right now, here's the weather.
It's warming up for this week, which we're all thankful for, at least I am. And here is your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch. Looking at sunny skies for today, a little bit on the breezy side, not too bad. High of 64 is what we're looking at tonight. Clear skies, low of 34. Tomorrow, sunny skies, warming up to 68 with an overnight low of 36. And for Wednesday and Thursday, hold on to this one, sunny skies and 70. That's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
I appreciate it, Gina. Thank you. Great job. And, of course, brought to you by Scarrow's Meats. 331 North Road, Jerome. The number to call, 324-7657. Oh, yeah. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Thank you very much. I've got time for some of your calls. Give me a jingle at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You realize that we're midway through the month of October already, and I understand that the Trunk or Treat is going to be on the Rupert Square, October 31st, Halloween, from 6:30 to 9:30 p.m., and that's providing a safe and family-friendly environment for the children to come and enjoy Halloween festivities. Now, the square, I understand, is going to be filled with cars, and their trunks are going to be open with candy and everything. For donations or to participate, please call 434-2757 or 312-2785. Trunk or Treat on the Rupert Square. Good morning. You're on the air. Thank you.
You know something, Zeb? I remember I know Don Scarrow because I was from Jerome, and I didn't know him that well, but I knew his family. And whenever I see him, I say hi, and he knows me. And, you know, and in the beginning, he was just out north of Jerome there. And, you know, now I see that he has maybe more than one delivery van that's got Scarrow's Meats on it. And I'm sure it was headed to Sun Valley. And I said to myself, see, if people don't make money, they can't hire other people to do things, or they can't buy Scarrow's meat, or they can't do anything. When the free market capitalist system is set free, we all profit.
That's right.
We all prosper.
That's right.
And so I've seen countless, as I've lived in for nearly 20 years, I've watched people that, you know, may or may not have been doing so well, who have since their lives have changed, they have done better, their business has prospered. And see, we all profit, we all do better when we all are allowed to do what we want to do. See, there's no way that Don Scarrow, that anybody knew what he had in mind except for him. Only he could achieve his dream.
That's right.
And see, this is the thing. When we got a government intervening, EPA or health care or whatever, or politics and football, and you say, you know what? You destroy more, you help no one, and you destroy. And in spite of you, we prosper and do better. And so it's just so infuriating, because on Monday morning you get up and you're going like, you know what? Because you know you better get after it, or they will find somebody else if you don't do it. And that's free market capitalism. If I don't deliver, they will find someone else.
That's right.
And I know it.
Well, you know,
Joe Montana said, he said, I was so afraid to lose. That's the reason he was so, you know, such a successful quarterback.
Yeah, but wait, whoa. Wait a minute.
I'm afraid to lose something that I've worked so hard to build.
But wait a minute, Randy, wait a minute.
Finger in my eye, screwing with me.
Yeah.
Because I'm out here knowing that if I'm not honest and as ethical and as do my best job, that I will suffer the consequences.
Well, just a minute, though. You bring up a really good point. Competition. Good should win, bad should lose. That's competition, as far as I'm concerned. And right now, honestly, I think we've got to put back, in regards to health care, back into the home court of personal responsibility and people running and maintaining their own wants and needs in their own life, and not forced upon them or given to them by government. That's the whole problem with our society today, Randy, is we give everything to everybody, and it should be personal responsibility. You want it, fine. You can pay for it, fine. If not, you go without. That's the way it should be.
Well, that's what it used to be, and that's the reason why people were so highly motivated, because they knew that there was no option. But now, whether or not you're in California, Oregon, or Washington, the communist state of any of those is so welfare-driven that they are literally destroying the very thing that made them great. And let's face it, they're all headed down the drain.
I agree.
And thank God we're still normal here in Idaho. And, this governor's race is going to be a good thing, because Butch is going to retire, and maybe Butch, in some cases is a little more relaxed than he should have been. That's my opinion.
Well, I always appreciate your opinion on my program. I'm not trying to shut you down, but I got to get a commercial in here, man. The clock dictates to me what I'm going to do, Randy. God bless you, man. Thank you. Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations, Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, doing the right thing matters. Absolutely. They've got a big fall tire sale going on right now with all their passenger car tires, pickup and SUV tires, many of which are on sale, and for your safe fall and winter driving. You stop in and see them today, and don't forget, too, that they've got the best in brake service. Absolutely the best in brake service. Highly trained technicians serving you with front-end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries. And I emphasize batteries when it starts getting colder because, boy, that can really be hard on a battery. Cold weather, and then you turn the key in, nothing. You're not going anywhere. So check it out today with the best of service at all 7 locations of your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Tomorrow on the program, Pam Geller. This is going to be really an interesting interview, and don't miss it at 9:06 tomorrow morning. And then we're going to have Tom DeWeese on talking about climate change. Dr. History is going to be here in his original spot at 10:06. Going to be a great program. Tune in tomorrow morning at 8:06. We'll ride the horse for 3 hours till 11 o'clock, where we always say the way things were are the way things ought to be. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow morning.